this episode, you need to get ready as we go back to the future. From Savannah to Colleton, from Colleton to Florence, from Florence, we start to go back. Yes, back in time to join that traveling pair, Russ and Mark. You may already be familiar with them. In this episode, we start out at Congaree National Park. From Congaree, we go to Georgetown. From Georgetown, we're going to go to Pawleys Island and run into the Greyman ghost. From there, we're going to go to Hopsewee Plantation, then to Brookgreen Gardens. From Brookgreen Gardens, we're going to end up in the Sundial Festival, all the way up in Barnwell. So get ready, and here we go. Hi, I'm Russ, and I'm here with Mark.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
And where are we today, Mark?
We are in the Congaree National Park, and we have some exciting things we're going to show you today. So, Russ, you probably didn't know this, but Congaree National Park is known as the home of champions, and they have some record-setting trees here with the bald cypress and the loblolly pines.
Yeah, but is this a swamp?
No, it's not a swamp, but what it is it's a floodplain.
A floodplain?
Yes, and so this area is prone to flooding in the winter and the spring times, which is where all the rich sediment comes in, which helps the pine trees and the cypress trees get to their enormous sizes.
Enormous hardwood sizes of cypress and pine trees.
So one of the great things about this area are the enormous sizes of the trees. We've talked about the record-setting trees here. The loblolly pine, over 15 feet in circumference. The bald cypress, 19. Some of the larger elm and oak trees are 23 feet in circumference. The loblolly pine can get up to 170 feet tall, which is pretty impressive, and it's also great for the local wildlife and the birds. Woo! And even the owls. Woo! Yes, there's a very large owl population here.
Yes, they have barred owls, and every spring and fall they have what is called the owl crawl, which I guess you go out there looking for owls. Woo! Live here, and obviously it's great for the owls because one of the things is they hunt at night, and the other thing that you find out about this place is that it has fungi.
Right, the Spanish moss and the fungus glows
in the dark, so it kind of helps the owls see the predators, kind of like night vision goggles, I think, or not. Cool.
Congaree National Park encompasses 27,000 acres, including the largest intact growth of old bottomland hardwood forest remaining in the southeastern United States. It is also a unique bottomland hardwood forest community. The overall height and the forest canopy and associated number of national and state champion trees, as well as the presence of a well-preserved, biologically diverse, and dynamic river floodplain ecosystem. Congaree State Park gets its name from the Congaree Indians, which lived in the area until the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto discovered them in 1700. Then, European immigrants coming to the area brought smallpox and decimated the tribe. With the Congaree out of the way, the new residents obtained land grants from the King of England until 1776, and the state of South Carolina was given the right to distribute ownership of that land. Attempts to make the land suitable for planting or for livestock continued up to the Civil War. The floodplain's changes in elevation and flooding ended this agricultural activity. However, the intermittent flooding allowed for the soil nutrient renewal and the area's trees to survive. The large bald cypress became the target for logging. In 1905, the Santee River Cypress Lumber Company, owned by Francis Beadler, had acquired much of the land. But a lack of accessibility by land confined logging to use the waterway so that the logs could be floated down the river. In the perpetual dampness, many of the trees were too green to float, so the loggers quit and left the rest of the area untouched. In 1969, high lumber prices prompted private landowners to consider resuming logging operations. But an effective grassroots campaign launched by the Sierra Club and others pushed Congress to establish the Congaree Swamp National Monument in 1976. On June 30th, 1983, Congaree Swamp National Monument was designated an International Biosphere Reserve. In July of 2001, it was designated a globally important bird area, and on November 10th of 2003, it was designated as the nation's 57th national park. So really, it's a relatively new national park. So, Russ,
Yes.
as far as family destinations go, this is definitely in the top 10. There's over 24,000 acres of unexplored fun that you could take the family on, wildlife, hiking trails, whatever you want to do out here.
And you know, we see there has just been, even today, there's been just tons of people hiking through here and enjoying the day. It's not far from Columbia or Charleston. It's right in the middle of South Carolina. You're not too far from the lakes. It's just a gorgeous place. Stay tuned as we'll be right back. And now join us as we go to Georgetown. And yes, we're in Georgetown. And just a little tidbit of information about Georgetown. Many people think Georgetown was actually founded or was named after King George. It wasn't. Actually, it was named after a number of guys by the name of George. Not exactly sure, but I do believe their wives were named Georgette and Georgina. But anyway, when people would say, hey, let's go to that place, they'd say, oh, you mean Georgetown? Eventually it became Georgetown. Another little tidbit about Georgetown. Once again, this is a rice-based community and seafood. Obviously, shrimp. Shrimp and rice. And if you got rice and shrimp, you got one good meal here in Georgetown.
In 1526, a Spanish expedition under Lucas Vasquez de Leon founded a colony on Wacaman Neck called San Miguel de Guadalupe. The settlers included enslaved Africans, and this was the first European settlement in North America with African slaves. However, the colony failed for multiple reasons, including a fever epidemic and a revolt of the slaves, who escaped to join the indigenous Indians in the area. Almost 200 years later, English finally moved back up into the area as part of the expansion from Charleston. Once again, in the Low Country area, just as we've seen before, the main plantation crop was rice and indigo. As time went on, indigo became less popular, but yet rice still was king. Rice was the golden crop. Eventually, though, rice was replaced. As an economic alternative to rice, the Atlantic Coast Lumber Company was incorporated in 1903. By 1914, it was the largest lumber-producing plant on the East Coast. In 1932, the Atlantic Coast Lumber Company declared bankruptcy, and Georgetown entered into a period of immense economic decline. Recovery began in 1936, when the International Paper Company built a plant there. By 1942, this plant had become the largest craft paper mill in the world. And in 1973, a steel mill was then opened in Georgetown as well.
And now we're off to Pawleys Island, famous for hammocks and also the Greyman ghost.
So you probably can't tell, but there's a great breeze going right now, and that's what was the main draw here for folks a long, long time ago, back in the, 1700s, something like that. And so basically, the breeze helped cut down on the mosquitoes, which in turn cut down on the malaria. And so the big draw to Pawleys Island was, it was the place to go to get refuge from the mosquitoes back when this island was first formed.
Georgetown and Pawleys Island are located on the South Carolina coast, in an area known as the Hammock Coast. It is more than just a name, as hammocks from this area are well known and sought after. Yes, Pawleys Island. Pawleys Island is a home of the Greyman ghost, whose story is that in 1822, a young woman was staying on the island with her family when she received word that her fiancé was going to join her there. So she prepared all his favorite dishes in anticipation of his arrival. However, as her fiancé was traveling to the house, he challenged his servants to a race on their horses. As they raced, he saw a shortcut through a marsh and decided to take it. The horse stumbled in the marsh, throwing him off the horse, and despite his servant's best efforts to free him, he sank into the mud. The news of her fiancé's death nearly drove the girl mad, as she distressed, constantly waking and having night dream visions of him. Her family took her to Charleston to see a doctor. Within hours of their leaving, a hurricane hit the coast, and almost all of Pawleys Island inhabitants died. But the family's house was untouched. And unlike most ghosts, the Greyman is not some type of boogeyman. The Greyman is a good sign. It's a sign that says to you, it's time to evacuate. And it says those who heed his warnings will ride out the storm with safety and their property undamaged. Of the past 5 storms that have hit Pawleys Island, all 5 have claims of people seeing the Greyman appearing before each one. We don't understand exactly how the Greyman got there, but the Greyman seems destined to wander the shores of Pawleys Island for eternity, trying his best to keep the residents safe. Hopsewee Plantation. Built in 1735 near Georgetown, South Carolina, it was the birthplace of Thomas Lynch Jr. Now, Thomas Lynch Jr. ended up becoming a signer of the Declaration of Independence. However, there is a story behind that, and that is that originally it was to be Thomas Lynch Sr. who was expected to sign. However, Thomas Lynch Sr. got sick before he had an opportunity to sign the Declaration of Independence. So he sent his son as his representative. And therefore, Thomas Lynch Jr., the son, ended up signing the Declaration of Independence. However, they did expect that Thomas Lynch Sr. would come back and sign the Declaration of Independence. As a matter of fact, they were so certain of it, there is still a blank space on the Declaration of Independence between the signatures of Edward Rutledge and Thomas Hayward Jr. And that space was for Thomas Lynch Sr.'s signature. After the war, Thomas Lynch Jr., who had no sons, made a will, which stipulated that the heirs of his female relatives must change their surname to Lynch in order to inherit the family estate. Therefore, the name Lynch would continue. As this occurred, he suddenly took ill at the end of 1799. Because of his illness, he was sent to be cured to the West Indies. Upon sailing to the West Indies, however, their ship disappeared at sea in a storm and was never found. Family estate Hopsewee still stands in South Carolina. The Lynch family sold the house in 1752 to Robert Hume, whose son John Hume lived at Hopsewee in the winter after inheriting it. John Hume died in 1853, just before the Civil War. The Civil War was not good to Hopsewee Plantation. During the Civil War, Hopsewee was looted by Yankees who took whatever they wished and gave the rest to the slaves that remained at the plantation. Although rice was never grown again at Hopsewee after the war, many slaves continued to work the land, renting pieces of the property for their own use up until 1925. In September 1945, the plantation was sold to the International Paper Company. This house is unique in the sense that it's made from black cypress. Black cypress, quite unique in the sense that this tree grows in the swamp, it sits in the water, and it becomes very, very hard. The house is 40 feet wide and 50 feet deep. Each floor has 4 rooms with a central hall. The piazzas were added in 1845, and replace an earlier veranda.
From Hopsewee Plantation, off we go to Brookgreen Gardens.
Originally, what is now Brookgreen Gardens was 4 rice plantations. The plantations from south to north were The Oak, Brookgreen, Springfield, and Laurel Hill. The current gardens and surrounding facilities lie completely on the former Brookgreen Plantation, which was owned by Joshua John Ward, who happened to be the largest American slaveholder. Only a handful of relics survive on the former plantation, one of which is the Alston Cemetery, which survives on the grounds of the Oaks Plantation. Governor Joseph Alston and his child are buried in the cemetery. The same grave is a memorial to the governor's wife, Theodosia Burr Alston, daughter of Vice President Aaron Burr, who is lost at sea. Her ghost is said to haunt the Grand Strand looking for her father. The rice mill at Laurel Hill is all that remains of the plantation today. During the American Civil War, Confederates built an earthen structure around the grounds to block the Union Navy ships from coming in to the tidal rivers.
If you want to see this episode again, or if you want to join us for past episodes, we're on the USA Choice Network. That's YouTube and on Roku. So join us, or you can visit us online at BusinessSouthernStyle.com.
I'm Amy Davis with the Barnwell Sundial Festival.
I'm Ashley Cole, and I am also with the Sundial Festival. The Sundial Festival was started back in 2019. There was just a need in Barnwell, and I was wondering what our poor little city was missing, and one of those things I was thinking is like, oh wow, you know, we actually have other small towns and they all had these festivals, and so we as a group came together and actually started the Sundial Festival.
Do not miss when you get here the food. The food is great. It is wonderful. We have different vendors. We generally only have about 2 of the same types, usually 1 if it's really specific, but never more than 2 because we want to have different things. We want to have variety.
I actually love looking at the art that people make. It's one of my favorite things. Matter of factly, it's Mother's Day weekend. I actually recently just went out and purchased something for my mom. So I always think it's a great way to, because since we do it Mother's Day weekend, it's a great way for people to get out and get their mother a great gift. So yeah, come down to the circle. This festival brings to Barnwell people who have never come to our town. It helps bring people down to our downtown area, which is what we need. We need more people down here shopping. We're a beautiful small town. Everybody knows everybody, and we always have to remind people of that. And I love it. And the other thing is we do have several little historical things. We have a beautiful old church that, who was it, Sherman? Was it General Sherman came through, and his horses were actually there. You can come down and see our that church. You can come down and see the Sundial Festival. We have a circle theater. We have several things in Barnwell that are little jewels that people can come and see.
Here at the festival this weekend, this is our first 2-day one. This year, we had a concert last night. So we put on a free concert. Originally it was going to be ticketed, but we got enough sponsors, enough corporate sponsors to pay for the concert. So he was able to do it, and we were able to take care of all the cost of that. And which was great because we're a volunteer group. We don't get paid to do this.
And we're super excited. We hope to do this again next year.
Yes.
We were talking last night about who we were going to invite next year.
Yes.
So it was great. Even though it might have been a lot, at the end of the day, I felt great last night. It was probably the first time we've ever had a festival that I felt like, well, I feel great. Let's do this again tomorrow. So it was the first time. So I can tell you that as we've gotten into this, because this is our 5th year, 7th festival. You know, is it the 8th one?
Yes.
Oh, y'all, it's been a long time. But we're so excited to bring this to our little community. And we look forward to doing this again next year, and it'll be Mother's Day weekend, we can guarantee it.
Barnwell is near Aiken. If anybody's ever has gone to Aiken to the steeplechase or anything like that, we're not but 40 minutes from Aiken. We are
up to Highway 278.
Yes.
A lot of people, when they're going down to the low country, we are the gateway to the low country.
If they come through from, a lot of people go from Aiken and North Augusta, if they're going to Hilton Head or to Edisto Beach, they have to come through Barnwell to go there. So when they're coming through, they can always come through and stop and check things out and shop. This year, we would love for you guys to come down and visit us at the Barnwell Sundial Festival. It's a great place to enjoy the day with your family, friends, and sit and relax and listen to great music and food. Back great gifts.
Hey y'all, it's Ashley Cole. We're down at the Circle in Barnwell, and we would love to have all of you come down and join us.
Again, as always, thank you for watching.